We have another episode of Dynamically Speaking, talking about all things Gartner IAM North America and the sessions that we're looking forward to. All that and more coming up right now. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Dynamically Speaking podcast. I'm Emme Reichert, the marketing manager at Axiomatics, and with me is our always knowledgeable CTO, David Brossard. Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, Emme. Good. I was going to say good morning, but it's afternoon already, isn't it? Happy Friday, everyone.
Yes, happy Friday, Monday, or whenever you're listening to this.
Oh, no, it's got to be a Friday.
Of course. So by the time this episode comes out, it will be less than a week to the Gartner IAM Summit in Grapevine, Texas. There's going to be a lot of amazing sessions there, and we are very excited to be going there. If you want to stop by our booth, we'll be at booth 342. Now, getting into those sessions, David, what are some of the sessions that you are looking forward to?
Well, that's a really good question. First of all, Gartner IAM this year, or this coming month in December, is the American version. Yeah, as you probably remember, there's two editions. There's the London edition in the UK, and then the American version. And historically, Gartner IAM, it's in the name. It's focused on identity and access management. This year, though, there's a whole lot of, even more, I would say, authorization sessions, authorization focused sessions. And that's what I'm excited about. And as a matter of fact, the lead organizer for the conference is Homan Farad, who's one of the lead analysts, or if not the lead analyst for authorization at Gartner. And I think by looking at the agenda, you can tell how much they're putting into that topic, which, of course, as an authorization company, we're really excited. You and I, Emme, we wrote down a list of sessions that we're particularly interested in, a list of people as well that we want to go meet and talk to, great minds of the authorization space. I'm really, really excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, there's a bunch on the topic, and this will be the first session and conference that I'll be attending. So I'm really looking forward to learning the atmosphere and learning from all of you about everything that goes on.
Yeah, and fun fact is it'll be the first time we meet in the flesh, right? I don't think we've met face to face before.
No, I haven't met anyone in face to face, so this will be fun.
So a bit of trivia for those of you listening. Today, as we mentioned, is a Friday. You can listen any other day. I was just joking about that, although we will find you. Today is actually Black Friday, but because we're in Canada, both Emme and I, we don't have Thanksgiving, of course. And another fun fact is Emme and I both live, I don't know, about an hour or so from the border, yet we live maybe 5-6 hours flight from one another. Emme's, from my point of view, it feels like she's on the East Coast. She's not on the East Coast, but I'm on the West Coast, so very, very far away. With that being said, let's have a look at some of the sessions for Gartner, shall we?
Yep. Let's get into it.
I'll start with a shameless plug. Emme, you helped me and Mark Bird, my co-conspirator, put together a great session on authorization that will take place on the first day, on the Monday evening. We will be talking about authorization track. I'm more of a Star Wars guy, but then they have so many access control failures in that Death Star that we figured it was better to go down the path of Star Trek. And so Mark and I will show you, attendees, how you could actually secure the enterprise, with fine-grained, policy-based, attribute-based authorization. It's going to be a short session, 20 minutes only, very hands-on. We'll share the slides after the session for those of you who want to get the material. But there's many more sessions, right? We're not here to just talk about Axiomatics. There's many, many more sessions, both vendor-driven sessions and analyst sessions that we should look at. And one of them that caught my attention, Emme, is as the expert, IGA integration with privileged access management and governance and what that means. And that's a talk that Gautam Mudra, who's an analyst at Gartner, will cover, and he'll discuss how these different fields integrate together. And it's always interesting to see how privileged access management evolves and how it impacts governance processes and how it relates also to access control. Oftentimes people will think that PAM is just about, highly secure accounts and passwords and how you get access to these to escalate your privileges, right? Like an admin account on a server. But if you think about it, if you rolled out authorization the ABAC way, then perhaps Pam plays a slightly different role. I'm hoping that Gautam will cover this in his presentation on the Monday. Selfishly, there's a series of presentations that I'm very keen on attending, around shared signals. So as you know, I'm involved in OpenID. It's a standards body. And within OpenID, I'm involved in a working group called AuthZEN. One of our sibling groups is shared signals that my peer at Signal, a tool, is driving. They have a series of presentations throughout Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. The main one is going to be on the Monday, is going to be talking about establishing or building a trust fabric with shared signals. What's cool with that session is that they have not one, not two, but three presenters speaking. So a tool alongside Felix Getgens and Eric Wallstrom, both analysts at Gartner, who will talk about signals, things like CAPE and risk, which are two standards that they're building, how it relates to authorization, how it relates to continuous authentication authorization, how it relates, to adapting risk in the enterprise, really. And then on the Tuesday and the Wednesday, quite possibly on the Monday as well, I can't quite remember now, you could actually go attend their interops sessions, where a bunch of companies that are taking part in shared signals will show what those signals could do for you, what those standards could do for you. Another cool session, I've got my radar, is Gen AI. So, like, out of curiosity, do you use AI at all in your day-to-day work?
I use it all the time now. I was so against it in the beginning, but I have converted.
Ooh, a convert. Well, Gen AI is not just for, generating cute pictures or generating text or, some of the more visible things we see online with DALL-E and ChatGPT. It's also useful for enterprise identity, enterprise security. And Homan, who again is the host for this Gartner IAM conference, will be speaking about Gen AI and IAM specifically and what that means, right? Applying Gen AI to authentication processes, to trust establishment, to strong authentication, but perhaps even more so for us to authorization, right? And as you know, there's a couple of companies that have established forays into Gen AI applied authorization. Axiomatics is one of them. We have a policy companion that people can go try it online on our website, but also other companies like Asordo and Sorbos who have been talking about applying authorization to AI. So the other way around. What's your take on that? And can you tell us a bit more about policy companion, by the way?
So Policy Companion is really awesome. I keep learning more about it with each time. And the first time I was sent to it by someone, they didn't tell me that this was the actual product. So I was just playing around with it. And I was creating policies without knowing that's what I was actually doing. So anyone can actually do it and convert policies and translate it into alpha and just regular so that anyone can understand it.
This is amazing. This is really cool because we the techies were so deep down in our standards. You mentioned alpha, right? The abbreviated language for authorization, that sometimes we forget that the people who eventually have to write the policies might not be as passionate or as knowledgeable about the standard. And therefore, writing a policy is not easy. And so what you're saying is that you were able to write policies using Policy Companion without prior knowledge of the underlying standard. That's super cool. I'm happy to hear that.
It was really fun and simple, and I know it helps convert a lot of the stuff, and we're counting it in a lot of our webinars that we do monthly with some of our team members on LinkedIn Live and YouTube as well.
So, there's another session on Monday. I don't know if you're going to guess which one I'm going for now, that I'm pretty interested in around a topic that you and the rest of the marketing team have been talking a lot about, and that's zero trust. And so I can't quite remember what time it is on Monday, so people will have to go check the Gartner agenda to figure that out. But it's called Technical Insights, Guidance for Policy-Based Authorization to Enable Zero Trust. Now, I have to confess something. When I came back to Axiomatics a couple years ago, I had zero knowledge of zero trust. which is like an inverse rhyme in a way. And I still have very little knowledge of zero trust. I'm like, I worry about like the weeds and the technicality, and I struggle to elevate. I'm grateful that you're here to help me elevate and understand how it can, how authorization, what we do, can plug into frameworks like zero trust. Have you like noticed any new trends around that, or more companies interested in that angle of authorization?
I feel like it's just a more term. A lot of people don't want zero trust, but don't necessarily realize that's what they're looking for. And the motto for that is never trust, always verify, if I'm remembering the exact wording for that.
Yep.
And it applies to so many things in authorization and just in life in general, in my mind. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And so we're fortunate to have Espen Bago, who's also a Gartner analyst, talk to us about how PBAC, it's not a term I really like, PBAC, because I think we struggle from having too many terms around. But for what it's worth, PBAC is policy-based access control. It's another word for attribute-based access control, or ABAC. Espen is going to walk us through applying ABAC, PBAC to implementing zero trust, how we could get to zero trust with ABAC, PBAC. And that's quite cool because, of course, like you say, Emme, right, customers might not know what they're looking for is zero trust. And zero trust is such a big word. I counted the letters. There's a lot of letters in there. That it's there is no one product that's gonna solve zero trust, right? It's a multitude of products. PBAC, ABAC is a great foundation to get there. And so on the agenda, I noticed that it said that the session would focus on available options and deployment models to actually implement zero trust with ABAC, PBAC. What's interesting with Espen, apart from the fact that he's a good friend and that he and I hang out in the same authorization nerd water holes, is that he used to be an implementer. So he's not just an analyst. He also has experience in the scars of implementing ABAC, PBAC at a customer organization before he joined Gartner. And I'm sure that his experience, his real world experience, will influence what he has to say about ABAC and zero trust. And then one last thing I want to note on zero trust is that there is a lot of great material that, in particular, the U.S. government, and I might be biased because I read in English, have put out. The White House, NSTAC, NSA, NIST all have published frameworks on how to achieve zero trust and what it means, and what authorization, what part authorization plays, what part authentication plays, what part other pieces play in zero trust.
Yeah, and I know we have some documents on our website that help break down zero trust for the DoD out of the initiative that they put out that helps explain everything and where we think that's going.
Fantastic. Great. Because it's always helpful to have a guide like walk you through especially topics like zero trust, because there are so many ins and outs.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't understand it's not a one size fit all. It's a strategy that they have to put together.
Yeah. Should we look at Tuesday?
Let's do it.
Tuesday it is. I don't know that they'll be serving tacos, although it is Texas, so who knows. The first session that caught my attention is one that Ant Allen, another analyst at Gartner, is running, called Guidance for Continuous Adaptive Trust to Enhance Your Identity Fabric. And the session isn't really about authorization per se. It's more about authentication. So the identity, the I part of IAM. That being said, there's two words that stuck out to me in that title. One is continuous, speaking of zero trust and speaking of shared signals. And the other one is trust, establishing the trust between the different parties. So Ant will focus on authentication. He will focus on strong authentication, authentication methods, signaling of change in risk in a session, so on and so forth. But I see that as a bridge, or instead of but, and I see that as a bridge towards authorization, because a good authorization framework feeds itself from a good authentication layer that is adaptive, that actually has levels of assurance, that have different authentication strength to make the decision process even better. And actually, it reminded me of a session that Ian Glazer ran at Authenticate. So Authenticate took place in early October. As the name indicates, Authenticate focuses on authentication and identity. A bunch of us authorization nerds crashed the party. We were invited, but we still sort of crashed the party. And Ian at Authenticate spoke a lot about signals. and how signals can help us bridge between authentication and authorization, and how we can make what used to be long-lived authentication sessions or long-lived tokens more adaptable, more updatable, if you will. So even if they're long-lived, you can actually change their scope. That's quite interesting. And that actually takes us, still Tuesday, the first of the, I think, 6 or 7 interop demos that Shared Signals will have. Check out the agenda. Check out the Shared Signals working group as well on the OpenID website. Ping Atul if you have any questions. He'd be happy to provide attendees with more information.
Well, and then I know looking forward to the IAM session for Gartner in London, you guys are going to be running a similar thing for the AuthZEN working group, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for pointing that out. So in Gartner London at the end of March, if I'm not mistaken, 2025, we, the OpenID AuthZEN group, the sibling group to Shared Signals, we will be running an a series of interop exercises, much like we did at Identiverse back in June and Authenticate back in October. We will do a rerun of that in March. And there's more exciting stuff coming because, back in June and October, we did interop on the initial API version. The API has now been voted as a standard a couple of weeks ago. So I'm super happy about that. And we can actually work on the next iteration of standards, the batch API for authorization, the search API for authorization, but also design patterns, bridging the world of PEP PDP, if you will, on the one hand, and the world of tokens and authentication and OAuth on the other. So these are exciting things that my peers and I within AuthZEN will be running in London. Sorry, I want to say London Calling. That should be the underlying theme song to this podcast, London Calling by The Clash.
Oh, that's awesome. We're going to be looking forward to that in March. But back to the conference at hand in December, what are we looking for next for Wednesday?
Yeah, so I've got 3 sessions on my radar for Wednesday. One is demystifying identity protocols, the old, the new, and the de facto. This is run by another Gartner analyst, Mehmet Yalaman, and he's going to be talking about the evolution of identity standards. Now, I haven't had a chance to speak with him yet, so I don't know which standards he's going to mention, but there's a lot of new initiatives. So if we look at the authentication side for a minute, with an OAuth, you have transaction tokens, you have rich authorization requests that have come up. There's many more that I can't think of. I'm not an OAuth expert by any means. And then, of course, on the authorization side, you have CAPE, you have risk, both part of Shared Signals. You have AuthZEN, of course, under OpenID. And then you have an initiative that I'm working on, which is to get the updated version of the abbreviated language for authorization approved as a working group within IETF. So I call that IETF Alpha 2.0. And that's still a work in progress. So I'm hoping to get what we call a birds of a feather above the next IETF session. I think it's IETF 122 by now. And then hopefully a working group by IETF 123. So that's going to be the session that Mehmet's going to be running on standards. The second session on Wednesday is a session that Espen, again, is running, and that's about policy-based authorization specifically and what it means to reduce access risk. And that, of course, it's so fundamental to the core of Axiomatics and to the messaging that you put out on our website, Emme, that I think it's a great session that everyone should attend, understanding how when you have a policy that reflects your business, that reflects the different parameters to your decision-making process, how that can lower the risk. And of course, you can include attributes like risk scores for users, behavioral analytics if you have a system that can give you that data, relationship between the user trying to access an item and that particular item, so on and so forth. And so I'm just excited to see that session. I think it's a great way for IAM practitioners who have more or less solved their authentication challenge and that are now moving to the authorization challenge. It's a great way to have a good vendor neutral, right? You don't want to be biased by, us or anyone else, but vendor neutral view of what it means to do policy-based authorization for your risk posture within the enterprise.
Yeah, that's one session that I'm really looking forward to hearing.
And then, Emme, the last session, at least for us here, is the AuthZEN session that Omri Gizit of Acerto and myself will be running. He and I are the co-chairs of OpenID AuthZEN, along with Jerry Gable of Strata. Jerry, unfortunately, won't be with us in Grapevine. It's too cold. He lives in Arizona, so Texas is a bit too cold for him. And yeah, we'll give attendees a sneak peek of what we will be running in London. We'll give an update on the progress of the standard. We'll give details of what it is we're looking for in the search API, which is the next big ticket item that we're working on. And just generally speaking, the evolution of the standard and the interoperability that we're aiming for and the outreach we're trying to do now with other non-authorization products. For instance, API gateways, IDPs, SaaS and COTS, and many more. So it's going to be a fun session. It is at the end of Wednesday. It is right before people have to run to the airport to catch flights to go home. I myself, I think, have maybe 2 to 3 hours in between the end of the session and my flight. So hopefully I won't be stranded at DFW. I can think of better places to be stranded at than that airport.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to keep that one on the agenda.
And then there is an authorization event taking place Tuesday night. Eve Mailer, who's a fantastic thought leader in the space of authorization, has been working on user-managed access and many identity protocols over the past 15, 20 years, is hosting an authorization barbecue party, which I think she dubbed BBAC, barbecue-based access control. That's going to be happening on Tuesday. And if you want to come, there is an Eventbrite event that you can find and sign up for. And if you want all the details, if you actually go to the AuthZEN Substack, you'll find essentially a summary of the sessions we talked about. And then we can also post the links on our own website, Emme, as a teaser for the Gartner event. What's the single most exciting thing you're looking forward to? Is it meeting everyone in the flesh, or seeing the booth, or seeing attendees?
All of the above, and some of the sessions that are really exciting. I can't wait for those, and just getting out of the house since I work remotely and going somewhere for a while.
Yeah, that's going to be great and refreshing.
Thank you, David, for your time. And for anyone listening, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and share. We're on almost all major streaming platforms. We'll put all of the links that David mentioned in the description below. And we can't wait to see everyone at Gartner. We'll be at booth 342. Make sure to attend David's session, Authorization Check, the final frontier, on Monday, and his AuthZEN session on Wednesday.
And Emme, one last thing. I have a newfound passion. I'm one of those guys, who thinks they can do graphic design, but actually can't do graphic design, and everyone else is too polite to tell me I'm really bad at it. But I did do a funny sticker for Identiverse back in June, and I'm doing a new one for this conference. So if you want to have a cool sticker, or at least pretend that my sticker is cool, just come around the booth and grab one.
I mean, your last sticker was pretty awesome. I am very jealous I don't have one. So
I've got a few here. I'll bring you one.
Awesome. We'll see you then. Thanks again, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you at Gartner.
Happy holidays, everyone.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Dynamically Speaking. Stay tuned for our next one, and in the meantime, check the show notes and connect with us on LinkedIn and YouTube. And visit us at axiomatics.com to learn more about our authorization solution.